Marc Levin here. After any presidential election, I take time to reevaluate my own financial investments. That's why I continue to invest in gold for help with my financial protection. When it comes to gold, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're a top gold company in America, and that's who I turn to for my own gold purchases. Call them now at 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit. And see if you qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. And tell them Marc Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
Marc Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I want to begin with something. I wasn't planning on starting with it, but I just learned about it, shockingly enough. Apparently it happened some hours ago. And that's the death of Ted Olson. Ted Olson was probably... No, not probably, one of the greatest Supreme Court litigators ever. Ever. I knew him for quite some time. In the last number of years, you know, our friendship wasn't altered in any respect, but we didn't really keep in touch. There's just so much going on in everybody's life. He was involved in a few cases I didn't necessarily agree with, but this is the way he was. If he believed something needed to be supported and defended, that's what he did. You might remember in Bush versus Gore, he represented Bush, and he defeated David Boies in the Supreme Court. That was a big deal. He worked in the Reagan Justice Department for a good period of time. And when he left there, he went into the private practice. He was a hugely sought-after litigator. Now, we worked together a lot during Iran-Contra. When that matter broke, I represented former Attorney General Ed Meese when I had left the Department of Justice. He represented President Reagan. It was very brutal litigation that most people didn't know about. It was litigation in secret. It was a very nasty law, the Independent Counsel Act, as we called it. And we were up against these extraordinarily powerful independent counsel, in this case, Lawrence Walsh. Landmark represented Meese. I was the lead litigator. And I did it, and I wanted to do it for free, and that's what we did. Walsh was coming after Reagan. He was coming after George W. Bush. He was coming after Ed Meese. He was coming after Donald Regan. He went after Weinberger, which was an atrocious, unethical act. Just looking for scalps everywhere. I must have spent the entire summer, I forget which year, at the courthouse in Washington, D.C. We were not allowed to actually access the grand jury information that Walsh had used, in my view, unconstitutionally, and I raised it in the secret litigation, and they ruled against me. 2-1 was a panel. And I said, well, by God, we have a right to respond to this, and I want to respond to it, and I need to use that information. The court said I could on a very limited basis. They would not allow me to take any copies of the grand jury information. I literally, and back in those days, had to sit at a table in Judge Sentel's office, a circuit court judge who was on the panel, in his conference room, and pick up this, rather sizable microphone connected to this tape recording machine and read from the transcript. And it got so bad I actually had sour balls errors popping in my mouth because my throat was so raw. And I did it for 3 months. We filed a motion. I wanted access to other people's information and so forth. And the court ruled that I could actually talk to the other lawyers, but I could not talk to the president's lawyer, Ted Olson, which was bizarre. Ted Olson was free to talk to anybody he wanted to. I was free to talk to anybody I wanted to except Ted Olson, and yet I needed to know what information they had in order to write the response, the report, to the report. So I called Ted, who was an old friend of mine, and I said, hey, Ted, I'm not allowed to contact you about information related to this case, but you are allowed to contact me. I said, do you understand what I mean? He said, yes. I'll see you tomorrow at noon in my office. So he had asked me to meet with him. And we wrote a response, a very extensive response to the independent counsel's report. He didn't indict Ed Meese because Ed Meese didn't do anything wrong, and he didn't indict a number of people. But he had indicted Caspar Weinberger. It was outrageous. Not for actually committing an offense, but for obstruction. What did he do? He had sent all of his notes to the National Archives, which had been placed in the secure area with classified information. And the independent counsel said he wasn't supposed to do that. He was supposed to send it to him. And so they charged him. And in D.C., if you're a Republican, you're guilty the minute you walk into that city. It was the disgrace. Caspar Weinberger was a tremendous hero, built up our military, helped defeat the Soviet Union. Just tremendous. Now, we challenged the constitutionality of the independent counsel statute. We challenged the constitutionality of his report, the use of 11E grand jury information. And we lost. And his report came out. Our reports were attached. I sat down with former Attorney General Meese. And I said to him, again, I was out of the government, so was he, and I said to him, Landmark, we had prepared a brief to go all the way to the Supreme Court. At the time we contacted Chief Justice Ring, I've never explained this, have I, Mr. Producer? We contacted Chief Justice William Rehnquist's office. We told them that within the next 3 or 4 hours we were going to file a brief that was loaded with this grand jury information, taking on the prosecutor and everything else. It needed to be done in secret, believe it or not. At least to that point. We were actually given information on how to go to the court through the back door. We would be met by a court marshal, how they would accept it. And I sat down with Attorney General Meese and Brad Reynolds, who was fantastic, Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division. Had been. We sat together and I said, okay, Mr. Meese, he always said, call me Ed. So I started to call him Ed. All right, Ed, what do you want to do? I want to show you what a remarkable man Ed Meese is. He said, I don't want us to file it. I said, well, it's ready to go. He said, it's okay. He said, what's Ted Olson going to do on behalf of Reagan? And I had spoken to Ted, and he told me that the President Reagan, had decided to let the report out. He had nothing to hide, even though it was outrageous. And Ed Meese said to me, well, Mark, we can't then file. I said, what's your thinking on that? He said, if President Reagan wants it out, And I'm in there filing that we don't want it out because of the violations of basic violations of law by this prosecutor. It'll look like I'm trying to cover up what took place on behalf of the president, even though the president himself made it public. He said, we can't do that. He said, what we're going to do is let it go public. Tell the court you're not filing. I said, well, I still call him Mr. Meese. I said, well, Mr. Meese, we're going to get creamed in the media here. I said, Don Regan doesn't know how to respond to this. Weinberger doesn't. George Shultz doesn't. President Reagan, who was beginning his decline, he doesn't. He said, then I'll do it. 3 weeks. Any show that wants to talk to me, good, bad, or indifferent, local, regional, state, national, I will do it. For 3 weeks. And then we'll stop. So he took it on his shoulders, and that's what he did. That's what he did. I've now told you things I don't believe I've ever told anybody else. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the nature of the beast. It was the early 1990s. How long ago was that? Is that 35 years ago? Something like that? Anyway, Ted Olson was a gentleman. He was a very kind man. Several years ago, I don't remember, in Reston Town Center, outside of Washington, D.C., I was having a steak dinner, I think with my daughter. My wife will remind me if she was there. I think she was there. And Ted was sitting in another booth with his son. I hadn't seen him. It was dark in there, and he called over, and we spent a little time together. He was fantastic, as always. Again, he was involved in some cases you might not agree with, some cases I didn't agree with, but they weren't based on politics. They were based on his principled beliefs. And he's passed away, unfortunately. You know, it's true what they say. It really is. It's true what they say. Remember as a kid listening to the radio, listening to WABC as a kid from Philadelphia. Has a big reach. And I was listening to a broadcaster by the name of Gene Shepard. And most of these great broadcasters, Gene Shepard, Cousin Brucey, others, they moved back and forth between WABC and WOR. They just did. It's the way it worked. Some of that will take place again, I'm sure. And my favorite, Bob Grant, he and I were very, very close, became best friends, actually. But I remember Gene Shepard, who was very cerebral and very entertaining. I remember him saying, and I've told you this, folks, 500 years from now, nobody will know who you are. The vast majority of us, there's obviously a handful of people who are remembered, some just tremendous people, some as evil as hell. But for the vast majority of us, we don't remember family members 500 years ago. And that was his point. I remember him saying that. I remember watching my favorite movie of all time, Patton, and I watched it probably 50 times over the course of my life. And that speech that George C. Scott gives at the beginning. And that phrase, glory is fleeting. Glory is fleeting. Between what Gene Shepard had said when I was a kid, and I remembered it. And the first time I watched Patton, and I remembered that many, many years ago. Glory is fleeting. This is why when you have people on TV or radio or in Hollywood, even in politics, who are egomaniacal, who think they're better than everybody else, who look down on everybody, when you meet them in person, they're not particularly polite, nobody's going to remember them. Nobody's going to remember me. And that's why you need to have some level of humility. That's why you need to have, as I do, a special relationship with your audience, with you. In the moment, you may be a big shot, maybe. But in the end, you're not. You're just not. Ted Olson passed away today, and the vast majority of the American people won't know that he passed away, won't know who he was, what a critical role he played for Ronald Reagan, for the election of Bush, and so many other cases at the Department of Justice that mattered in the everyday lives of Americans. And so I take this time, may he rest in peace. There's at least one person who's not family who will remember him, and that's me. We've got a lot to cover. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It's lowered interest rates by a quarter. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Marc Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. The Democrats, starting with the biggest lowlife, Chuck Schumer, another lowlife, this slip-and-fall lawyer, Marc Elias, are trying to steal the Senate race in Pennsylvania. Not a single media outlet, any of these lefties will talk about accepting the results of an election, so now they're going to have a recount in Pennsylvania. This is what Elias does. This is how they stole the seat from Nora Coleman and gave it to, what is that guy's name? Al Franken. And this is what they do. Now, I'm watching the president, these announcements and these appointments of various individuals to various positions in the government. What's interesting is a large number of these people I know quite well. And they're fantastic. Some I don't know as well. I might even not like one or two of them, but it doesn't matter. President Trump needs to succeed. He succeeds, the country succeeds. If they succeed in sabotaging him, then what? Then what's left? So I'm not going to play the media game. What do you think of this one, that one, or the other one? I think they're all there to do what the president wants them to do, needs them to do, and when they step out and they do something else, he'll deal with it. But this is an administration that you and I elected, and it's an administration that needs to succeed. Period. Period. When we have a disagreement of policy, I may mention it, I may not. We'll see. But I know what these Democrats are going to do. I know what their media are going to do. I know. They're going to try and reverse the course of the election by trying to kneecap this president. There's certain core issues, core principle issues that we cannot compromise on, and I don't think the president will. I certainly won't. But that's not my point. My point is we got to give this man an opportunity and support him to get done what needs to get done. That's my mindset. That's where I'm coming from. If you don't like it, listen to some left-wing radio show. I'll be right back. The markets are volatile. They're shooting up wildly only to drop without warning. The Fed just cut rates yet again, this time by a quarter point. Why? Because the Federal Reserve is not confident the economy is strong. In fact, last month only 12,000 jobs were created, all of them in the government. That's why I'm telling you again, diversification is crucially important. And diversification with gold is what I do. And the company I use, and I've used many, the best one is Advantage Gold. Call them now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit to see how gold gold can help you diversify your investments and take advantage now. Now, gold has been helping to protect and grow wealth for people for thousands of years. And in these times, it can be more crucial than ever. When it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're one of the top gold companies in America. They're who I turn to when I purchase gold. Call them now, 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000 now for a free gold investment kit to see how gold can help you with your investment portfolio, a.k.a. your bank accounts, your paycheck. And when you do, you could qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Folks, don't wait. Call them now, 800-900-8000, and tell them Marc Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
The Marc Levin Show, the pool feed for the conservative media. Dive in now. 877-381-3811.
I'll tell you some of the appointments I like the best. Hegseth at Defense. So he comes under attack because, he's not an old bureaucrat general who's failed at something. He's not a leftist of the sort that Obama might select. Hadn't been hanging around Washington, D.C. like so many of these people they select to head the Pentagon and so forth. Hegseth's smarter than I don't know how many secretaries of defense. The man is a combat veteran in Iraq and Afghanistan. He wrote a book. We had him on the program. I believe it went to #1. A brilliant book on the Pentagon, the military, the wokeism, and what needs to be fixed. He's a young man. It's a good thing. Does everybody have to be 87 years old in Washington, D.C.? He's a young man, and I think he'll attract more recruits, especially when they wring out all that woke DEI crap out of the Pentagon. He's going to have a hell of a job on his hand. It's a massive bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. I'm not talking about the foot soldiers. I'm talking about the bureaucracy. And he's going to need all of our support and all the help he can get. And he's got it from me. There's no question about it. And please don't harass him with, the never wars. Don't get into wars. Like we're the warmongers. It drives me nuts, these people on TV and radio. Hegseth will use his head. He's smart. He knows how to avoid wars, but on the other hand, he knows at times you got to do what you got to do. Tom Homan, a genius choice as the border czar. President's not afraid to have a border czar. He wants that border secure. He wants to begin deportation of criminals and others. And then more massive deportation, as Eisenhower did. And, of course, the Democrats and the media are opposed to it because they created the debacle that we have on the border and in this country with 21 at least million illegal immigrants. Now they're worried about money, the spending of money. Can you imagine Democrats worried about debt and money? It'll cost us how much? I don't know. How much does chain migration cost us? How much? What does chain migration cost us? When all these illegal aliens have children or they become U.S. citizens and then they each bring in 20 different people. What will that cost us? And what is it costing our schools now and law enforcement now, our communities now? Look at New York. Look at Chicago. Look all over the country. It's enormous. I don't want to hear about that. And, of course, they never talk about the sex slavery or the missing 325,000 unaccompanied minors. They never talk about any of it because they don't give a damn. John Ratcliffe, brilliant choice, CIA director. He's got the background, he's got the smarts, he's got the courage. Elise Stefanik, ambassador to the United Nations. She's going to be absolutely outstanding. No question about it. Michael Waltz, you've seen him on Fox. This guy is just perfect for a national security advisor. My family and I have gotten to know him as we have Pete Hegseth. My wife's known him for years, even before he was popular and well-known. He's just terrific. We've gotten to know Elise Stefanik. She's fantastic. Who else? Huckabee is going to be a great ambassador to the State of Israel. A great ambassador to the State of Israel. He's a very decent man, too, by the way. Very, very kind man. And he was a outstanding governor. Lee Zeldin over at EPA. That's a rat's nest over at EPA. Don't let anybody fool you. It's ground zero for the degrowth movement, the climate change movement, all the nut jobs. And all the regulations intended to destroy your lifestyle and destroy our economy. He's going to have his hands full. Lee Zeldin is a real class act. Class act. My family and I know him quite well, too. Musk and Ramaswamy, Office of Government Efficiency. Can you think of a better tag team than that to handle that? I can't. Who even would have thought of a department like that or an office like that under the Democrats? Nobody. And there are others, too, but these are people I know and admire, either very close friends or acquaintances. In the case of Musk, I don't know him at all. Ramaswamy, we don't know each other that well, but he's a good man. These people will do the right thing. So of the no's that have been named so far that I can think of off the top of my head, these are the stellar appointees, and the president deserves our full support for all his appointees. Right now he does, because he's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to do the right thing, and he's going to come to a headwind. They're not going to just sit back. First, they'll try and start picking off a couple of these guys and gals. They're going to try and undermine the House, which is a very, very tight majority. And by the way, that's not Mike Johnson's fault. We talked about this. The census got it wrong. There should be 9 more Republicans in the House. 9 more. Just by the census screwing up. Just by the census screwing up. But I think this is, we have to be very optimistic, certainly going into this. We're going to have fantastic Thanksgiving. Aren't you, Mr. Producer? The Democrats, their face is going to, drop into their stuffing and into the mashed potatoes. Oh, my God. Okay, great. But it'll be a very good Thanksgiving, as opposed to if we lost, it would have been a horrendous Thanksgiving. We have some great staff appointments, too, around the President of the United States. Smart people, loyal people, who are going to be absolutely outstanding, who are outstanding. And let's see here. Let me see. There's a list of them. Just bear with me. I know a few of them, and I know them to be great. Dan Scavino. This guy is just fantastic. A real sweetheart, too. So loyal to the president. He'd been a big fan of this radio show even before he went into the White House the first time. But he's been with President Trump forever. Stephen Miller. Is there a better person than Stephen Miller? Of course, they're going to make him out to be something he's not. They do that to all of us, so ignore these ratfinks. American First Legal, my wife has been working over there. What a fantastic group, a fantastic team. But even more than that, he's a great guy, worked on Capitol Hill. He used to keep in touch with this program, didn't he, Mr. Producer? He's a longtime patriot. So he and Dan, I don't really know the others, but I know them, and they are great. And there's going to be more. There's going to be more. President met with Joe Biden today for 2 hours. I don't know how he did it, meaning President Trump. By all accounts from the president himself, it went pretty well. By all accounts, it went pretty well. I'm sure it did. I have to laugh. I mean, what would Biden say for 2 hours? You know, President Trump probably had to do most of the talking, right? I got to believe that. And, of course, when it came to the public shaking of the hands and chit-chatting and so forth, the fact of the matter is they scooted the press out there as fast as they could because that's what they do. That's what they have to do. We've got a ton more news and much more news here, and we're going to have 2 great shows this week, and I can tell you already. Saturday night show. By the way, Saturday night, last night, we won the whole day on all cable news. We had massive ratings, well over 2 million. I mean, this is what network TV gets. This is what Meet the Press does not get. These Sunday shows don't get. Saturday, despite college football and everything else on, the number one show. Sunday, we're in the teeth of... Here's what happens on Sunday. Sunday Night Football begins, the kickoff begins at 8:20 p.m. Well, my show begins at 8 p.m. And so we're right in the middle of that. And Sunday Night Football, according to the people I've talked to at Fox, is hotter now than it's ever been in a decade or two. And yet we still get huge ratings because of you. I want them to be bigger, but they're still huge because of you. So we're right in the teeth of Sunday Night Football. It's just like this program on radio, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We're right in the teeth of all sports, all of it. Dinner time, Little League activities, 6 to 9 p.m., right? That's family time, Eastern. And yet here you are. We crush the competition in every single city, and that would include New York. The other time slots, they don't go up against sports as regularly as we do. We looked at this. I'm on 20 nights a week, right? And what was it that they determined, Mr. Producer? During the height of sports, like the Mets and the Yankees and so forth and so on, when we're up against baseball, just as an example, we've done an analysis of this. 17 nights out of 20 nights, we're up against baseball. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? It's amazing. And again, in addition to everything else that might be on TV or happening at your dinner table and so forth, this is Eastern time. And yet there we are, crushing our competition across the street. Now, there was a time when I was asked many years ago if I wanted to do noon to 3. And this was ABC radio networks. I said, I'm not going to do noon to 3. I'd be going up against my buddy Rush Limbaugh. Now, how many hosts do that, Mr. Producer, who are so loyal that they won't do something like that? Me. That's it. And boy, they offered me a boatload of money. I said, absolutely not. Then a few years later, they said to me, Mark, how would you like to go up 3 to 6 p.m. against my dear friend Sean Hannity? Now, these are people who helped me get into radio, but they don't care. Not them, the companies at the time. And they offered me a freighter full of money. I said no. I would never do that to Sean. So here I am, 6 to 9. And they've tried everything, 6 to 9. WABC, before I was there, they tried everyone and everything. Every age group. They tried, double hosts. I can't even think of everything. They tried names. If I gave you, you'd be familiar with them, especially in New York. They weren't cutting it. And then I come in and I do what I do. Because it's a very, very tough time slot. It just is what it is. And it's thanks to you folks in the audience. Sometimes radio companies don't get it. They don't get the relationship between a host and their audience. Think they can just drop somebody else in. It doesn't work that way. It'll never work that way. When we come back, I want you to hear a little bit about what the president told the New York Post about his discussion with Biden. Don't you love Melania Trump? Don't you love her? She won't sit down for tea with Jill Biden. Excuse me, Dr. Jill. More like Dr. Jekyll. But it doesn't really matter. She says, wait a minute. You sent a SWAT team into my home. You went through my belongings. I'm not sitting down and having tea with Joe Biden. I've got other things to do. That's the way my wife would react. That's the way I would react, too. It's amazing how magnanimous President Trump was today. Truly, he was magnanimous. Melania had a damn good point. I kind of agree with her. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It's lowered interest rates by 1/4. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Marc Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. You know what? I've decided we're going to dig into this Pennsylvania thing going on. The lawyers for the Democrats, Marc Elias and sleazeballs like him, are trying to steal that election. So I'm going to talk to one of the lawyers representing the good guys. And I will get into that because we need to find out what the hell's going on here. Did you send it, Rich? Okay, there it is. I want to tell my friend Spiridon, I can't read all your emails while the show's going on. I'm sorry, buddy. I appreciate them. I can't read them till later. So we're going to dig into what's going on in Pennsylvania, the effort by the Democrats to steal the election there. Notice the media in America are you going to accept the election results? Are you going to accept them, huh? Are you? Well, I just got word that the lawyer handling the case for the integrity of the case can't come on the show right now. Not sure what that means, actually. Of course, he can talk about it. But let me give you some of the inside information that's going on. In Pennsylvania, a recount is required by statute if the margin between the two candidates is 0.5%. So the Secretary of State ordered the recount. Casey could have waived it because he's not going to win, but he didn't. There's a significant number of Republican attorneys there duking it out, real firepower, taking on Elias and Casey. This Marc Elias, remember the slip and fall loser, is making absurd arguments to get ballots counted that should not be counted. And this is what he's done. This is what he's done before. This is what he's done before. And so the filings are going on. The battle's taking place. Schumer's in on it. He's behind it, too, trying to knock out McCormick. This guy, Bob Casey, he got elected initially because of his father's name and his father's popularity many, many decades ago. He's basically a mannequin. He sits there in the United States Senate. He's been there 18 years. He wants 6 more. Does exactly what Schumer tells him to do. That's why Schumer's fighting like hell for him. Exactly what Schumer wants him to do. So they're not accepting the election results there. Now, we could have won in Arizona with Carrie Lake, but Mitch McConnell withheld providing her with any support whatsoever. McConnell, siding with the Democrats, defeated Carrie Lake. We could have won in Nevada with Sam Brown, but McConnell didn't provide enough help to Sam Brown, despite the fact that that was a very close race and Donald Trump won that state. That's 2. Hovde in Wisconsin, very, very close. My view, do what they're doing in Pennsylvania if you can under the law in Wisconsin. Get a recount and do everything you can to take that seat. It's brass knuckle time, ladies and gentlemen. It's the UFC without the gloves. That's what it is. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
All right, in the state of Pennsylvania, as I speak, Schumer, the Democrats, and the slip and fall Marc Elias, they want to count votes for unregistered voters, others who didn't sign the ballot, voters who did not have ID, ballots election officials did not sign, and voters who refused to sign affidavits. So you can see they're trying to steal the election. This is Marc Elias. In the meantime, let me update you with just the news. The Republican National Committee files lawsuits to stop counting illegal ballots in the Pennsylvania Senate race. Chairman Whatley, co-chairman, this guy's good. Bob Casey lost. Democrat officials and lawyers are trying to sow doubt in the democratic process, he says. RNC Convention Chairman Whatley announced the organization has filed 2 lawsuits in order to stop the counting of illegal ballots in the Pennsylvania Senate race. Again, you won't hear on any major news broadcast in this country that the Democrat Party will not accept the election results. Tonight, the RNC is filing 2 new lawsuits in Bucks County and the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to stop the counting of illegal ballots. We have won this court battle several times already, Whatley wrote. Also on Wednesday, the Pennsylvania Secretary of the Commonwealth, Al Schmidt, announced the state is conducting a recount of the Senate race between incumbent Democrat Casey and McCormick, as we discussed. Let's be clear, McCormick won the race, says Whatley. Bob Casey lost. The Democrat officials and lawyers are trying to sow doubt in the process, as they point out. So that's what's going on in Pennsylvania. You know, it was a decent-sized victory when you have millions and millions of people voting. It's not like 400 votes or 1,200 votes separate them. And this is why Schumer, the Democrat Party, and sleazeball Marc Elias, who kind of looks like Brian Stelter, except Brian Stelter looks like Cary Grant compared to him. This sleazeball Marc Elias is trying to get ballots that should never be counted. And again, this is how they stole the election from Norm Coleman, and Marc Elias was the one who figured out the best way to do that. And the country's still reeling from these tactics. And the media won't say a damn thing. They won't say a damn thing. Because they have no problem with it. That's their team. That's the truth. Well, we've got a lot to cover here this evening. President Trump reveals exclusively to the New York Post what he and Biden spoke about at a D.C. meeting. Trump told the Post that he and Biden both really enjoyed seeing each other when they sat down for the historic post-election get-together. You know, it's been a long slog, said President Trump. It's been a lot of work on both sides, and he did a very good job with respect to campaigning and everything else. We really had a really good meeting. You know, President Trump has shown himself to be really magnanimous here. I probably would have made a sarcastic comment. Okay, you want to take me around the back, Joe? Is that what you plan to do? I'm standing right here now. Anyway, the last 2 presidents of the United States, they write, discussed the transition of power on January 20, with Trump telling Biden in front of the world's press that it would be as smooth as can be following the Republicans' attempt to contest the race 4 years ago. What do you mean attempt? He did contest it, and he had a regret to contest it, period. It's going very smoothly, Trump told the Post, adding that the Republican transition team and the Biden White House enjoy a very, very good relationship. The president-elect added that he and Biden did discuss 2 issues on which they have differed in the past: the war in Ukraine, which Trump has promised to end almost immediately upon taking office. By the way, that doesn't mean capitulation, surrender, isolationism. That's not what Trump means. That's not what he's ever done. That's not what he did his 4 years as president. It means get to work and try and resolve the damn thing. Don't just let it slog on. Don't give money to Ukraine and then tell Ukraine they can't win. And the ongoing war in the Middle East. And apparently the discussions with Benjamin Netanyahu and his people have been very, very positive with the United States and the president. I wanted to ask for his views, and he gave them to me, Trump told the Post. Also, we talked very much about the Middle East, likewise. I wanted to know his views on where we are and what he thinks, and he gave them to me. He was very gracious. Trump also revealed that he and Biden are expecting to see each other again just before his inauguration, which the Democrat incumbent has already said he would attend. You know, I'm getting the feeling, Mr. Producer, that Biden is really thrilled that Harris lost. Aren't you? I mean, she was part of the coup. Jill Biden happens to be right about one thing, and that is that Kamala Harris would walk over her, Joe Biden, and anybody else to get the nomination, which is what she did. So there's no love lost there. None. The Oval Office is so beautiful, I do certainly look forward to coming back, Trump said. We'll have that very, very nice meeting that takes place between two presidents sometimes prior. You know, that takes place just prior to going in, so we'll have that. But this was a very enjoyable meeting. I'm sure he meant that. Trump with White House Republicans in D.C. today, that is with House Republicans. Cut one, Mr. Producer, go.
Well, thank you very much. This is a very nice gathering. Isn't it nice to win? It's nice to win. It's always nice to win. A lot of good friends in this room. So, you know we had like historic kind of numbers, especially for the president, but we won't get into that. But the House did very well, and I think we're responsible for 31, helping you with 31, meaning we could have lost by quite a bit, and we ended up, I guess you'll be 5 up. Are you looking at 5 or 4? 5 or 4, right? Doesn't matter. We get used to 1 for a little while. When you can get used to 1, you can get used to anything. So I just want to thank everybody. You've been incredible. We worked with a lot of you to get you in, and you helped me, and you helped me too. And my numbers were, so they say, the 129 years is the most important election in 129 years. That's pretty good. I said, who is the 129 years? What was that, Doc Ronnie? Who was 129 years ago? I'd never looked, because it started at being 100, and then they upped it to that, but it's a great compliment. We won the majority by 7.1 million. We won, which is great, because Republicans aren't supposed to be winning the majority, Marjorie. You know that, right? And we won that, and we won it every way, all 7 swing states by a lot. And then to Michigan was great. Couldn't be better, I'll tell you. Michigan was great, and we had a couple of people. Almost New Jersey is right. Just a few points.
Pennsylvania was great.
It's got them very worried, because they say, well, next time if we go up even a fraction of what we went up, you're going to win New York, you're going to win New Jersey, you're going to win places that weren't winnable. California, too.
Let me tell you, that New Jersey vote, as I looked at it, and I looked at it again this morning, was remarkable. A 5% difference, which, as I point out, if 2.5% of that 5% have voted for Trump, he would have won New Jersey. I think New Jersey's thrown in with California, New York, and Illinois, and it shouldn't be. New Jersey is a huge blue-collar state. Huge. Working men and women, middle-class men and women, who work with their hands. Obviously, there's others too, but I'm talking about, you know, the more dense parts of the state. And Trump's message resonates with you folks who do those jobs, and it should. And I think the next area of a real societal revolution should be the ranks of the unions versus the union bosses. Like the auto workers union boss, he's a hard left-core socialist. He didn't represent the auto workers. Like this guy that represents the Teamsters, he represented the Teamsters. He said, look, we're not endorsing. I got over 60% of my people who support Trump. So at a minimum, he shouldn't endorse. At some point, they should endorse Trump and the Republicans. But even if they can't go that far, you don't endorse the Democrats. And yet when you look at the UAW, which is being sold down the river by the environmentalists, the no-growthers, the anti-automobile industry, which is the radical left, you can't have a union boss with his demagoguery and his propaganda who throw in with the Democrat Party, and the Democrats are out, and they're not only going to destroy the auto industry, they're going to destroy all the jobs that go with it. And it's not just there. It's the steel workers and so forth and so on. So New Jersey is reflective of common sense. The voters there who voted for Trump, who wouldn't normally vote for Trump, maybe union members, blue-collar workers, and so forth, they're the most sensible voters in the state. And I'm going to tell you something else. New Jersey's the most dense state in the country. It's not even close. About 35% of the state is developed. That's a huge amount. And yet it has truly beautiful areas. Whether it's the oceanfront areas or other parts up in northern Jersey, where my in-laws are from. Bergen County is absolutely beautiful and so forth. There are other parts, too, that are beautiful. It's a great state. I remember when that state had no income tax and the lowest sales tax. I think I was about 10 years old, but I always remember this. They had no income tax. until, who was it, Brendan Byrne, that jerk, or somebody like that. And now they have like the second or third highest income tax in the country and a very high sales tax. Well, Mark, it's not on, food and clothing. I know, but it's on everything else. Then you have that jerk Murphy, the governor. God, what a schmo that guy is. He tries to install his wife as the senator. But I'm glad. I forget the gentleman's name. He was a Democrat. He was representing South Jersey. You go from the end of the Delaware Memorial Bridge, where the beginning of the New Jersey Turnpike is, and you turn onto Route 40 East, and you drive that all the way down to the ocean, whether it's Atlantic City or Ocean City or Wildwood or wherever it is. It's a beautiful drive. You go through farmland. You go through a couple of old towns. There's some diners there. I just love that drive. I won't go on the Atlantic City Expressway. I just love that drive. Going through New Jersey. It's just beautiful. And the gentleman represents that entire area, including Atlantic City, which is about 50,000 people and heavily Democrat. And it's a very diverse area. It's got farmland. They grow the greatest tomatoes on the face of the earth. Great peaches, too. All right, George, I'm just saying. Great peaches, too. Corn on the cob. Now I'm hungry. So when you drive through there in the summer, you have access to all this. They have vegetable stands. It just reminds me of my youth. It's fantastic. And I know things like that exist all over the country, but that's my experience. And so it's good to see 5% differential that a huge number of New Jerseyans voted for Trump. That's a big deal. Trump meets with Biden in the Oval Office today. Here's the 40 seconds that the press were allowed to actually show us. Cut 2, go.
Well, Mr. President-elect and former President,
thank you very
Donald,
much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And looking forward to having like we said, smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So
Good.
Welcome
Thank you
back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough. And it's, in many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. And a transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome.
President Trump is very presidential. He's very presidential. I know when he's under attack and he's campaigning, but he is truly very presidential. And it's especially the case in private moments. In other words, when the cameras aren't running and so forth. I've seen it. My wife has seen it. We've both seen it. He's got a hilarious sense of humor. He does. He loves sports. He loves gossip. He's just a regular guy in so many ways. And I think a lot of people, like I was talking about New Jersey, blue-collar workers all over the country, they saw that in him. They saw it with McDonald's and the garbage truck, the trash truck. They saw that in him, and that is him. He doesn't have any, he doesn't carry himself like he's a billionaire or anything of the sort. Very respectful. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
Folks, have you ever thought about what charities and causes you give your hard-earned money to? Pure Talk, my cell phone company, supports veterans. As a veteran-led company, that's their passion project. And that's why Pure Talk has slashed $10 million in veteran debt. That's why they donate tens of thousands of dollars every month to help prevent veteran suicide. That's why they donate $50,000 to Micro Works, providing scholarships to veterans learning the trades after active duty. Now, isn't that a company you can get behind? Time to jump ship from these other three guys. There's a better option. Pure Talk gives you the same great coverage, America's most dependable 5G network, for half the cost. And you'll be supporting a company that is helping our vets. It's a win-win. Dial pound 250. Say keyword Marc Levin. You'll be connected to Pure Talk's U.S. call center. That's right. They invest in American jobs to better serve you. And remember, they're half the price of the big three. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to a company that invests in American jobs to better serve you. Again, go to puretalk.com/Levin. You'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company. Now, Chuck Schumer goes on the floor of the Senate, not on his knees, but he waddles down. He starts davening. This man is a loathsome excuse of a human being. What he's trying to do in Pennsylvania now, steal a Senate seat, but this is who he is. Probably the most partisan, poisonous majority leader, even more than Harry Reid. This guy is just the worst of the worst. What he said about 2 Supreme Court justices, what he said about Netanyahu, what he said about Trump, he is vile, he is vicious, and he's a liar. But now he gets to the floor of the Senate, where what the Republicans are now going to have a majority, and you're not going to believe how he lectures them, what he has to say to the Republicans. Listen to this. Cut 3, go.
To my Republican colleagues, I offer a word of caution in good faith. Take care not to misread the will of the people, and do not abandon the need for bipartisanship.
Hold on. Bipartisanship? Well, he's trying to steal an election in Pennsylvania? Bipartisanship? While he helped pressure and unleash a criminal investigation at Donald Trump? Bipartisanship? Where he smothered the Mayorkas Senate trial, thereby effectively killing the impeachment clause in the Constitution as applies to the Senate? While he pushed 2 impeachments against Donald Trump? Folks, there's got to be bipartisanship, don't you understand? No, there has to be victory. There has to be victory. Sometimes you got to crush the political enemy. And this is one of those times. I don't care if you smile and shake the guy's hand, you take him to dinner, who cares? Just make sure you defeat them. Doesn't have to be pretty, can be ugly. Defeat them. Go ahead.
An election, the temptation may be to go to the extreme.
Really? You jackass. With Biden in the presidency, barely having a majority in the Senate, pushing through your radical agenda, your radical legislation. You have Kamala Harris breaking the tie votes. You weren't looking for Republicans then. Oh, we need bipartisanship. Baloney. The vote in this last election was bipartisan to defeat people like you jerk. This guy is a creature of Albany, New York, the state legislature, and now a creature of Washington, D.C. It's what he is. He's a rat fink. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, Rick Scott lost his campaign to become the majority leader. I have to say, we get these guys elected. They all pretend to be conservatives. Is it that hard to elect a conservative majority leader, Mr. Producer? It is, apparently, right? You got these guys who run. Some of them were Tea Party. Some of them more modern, more recent, telling you they're conservatives, conservative members of the House. They get elected to the Senate. All of a sudden, I can name a few, but I won't humiliate them. Maybe one of these days I will. And it comes down between Cornyn, who's the worst of the worst, and Thune, who's better than Cornyn. Who's at least better than Cornyn. But, you know, they have to show a little bit of passion, a little bit of excitement. They look like the pallbearers for Mitch McConnell when they would line up there. But one good battle in the leadership battle, one really good, is the number 3 is Tom Cotton. Puts him in the line for further leadership. He's the number 3 in the Republican leadership in the Senate. Tom Cotton is fantastic as far as I'm concerned. When we come back, we'll hear a little of John Thune. We've got a lot more to do. It's a short break. I shall return. Folks, have you ever thought about what charities and causes you give your hard-earned money to? Pure Talk, my cell phone company, supports veterans. As a veteran-led company, that's their passion project. And that's why Pure Talk has slashed $10 million in veteran debt. That's why they donate tens of thousands of dollars every month to help prevent veteran suicide. That's why they donate $50,000 to Micro Works, providing scholarships to veterans learning the trades after active duty. Now, isn't that a company you can get behind? Time to jump ship from these other 3 guys. There's a better option. Pure Talk gives you the same great coverage, America's most dependable 5G network, for half the cost. And you'll be supporting a company that is helping our vets. It's a win-win. Dial pound 250. Say keyword Marc Levin. You'll be connected to Pure Talk's U.S. call center. That's right. They invest in American jobs to better serve you. And remember, they're half the price of the big three. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN. Switch to a company that invests in American jobs to better serve you. Again, go to puretalk.com/Levin. You'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company.
This is Radio Free America on the Marc Levin Show. Call now, 877-381-3811.
You remember the leak situation? The leak of the Israeli military plan to attack Iran? Well, it appears, reportedly, they found the culprit. New York Post, CIA official. With top-secret security clearance charged for leaking highly classified documents about Israel's plan to strike Iran. A CIA official has been charged with leaking highly classified U.S. intelligence information about Israel's potential plan to retaliate against Iran for a missile strike earlier this year. They showed a photo of this guy. He looks like he's in his 50s, if not his 60s. Asif W. Rahman. Got that, Mr. Producer? Asif W. Rahman, who worked overseas for the agency and held a top-secret security clearance, was arrested by the FBI in Cambodia on Tuesday and indicted under the Espionage Act, the New York Times reported. His arrest comes after the top-secret material started circulating online last month, detailing Israel's apparent intention to hit back at Iran after the country launched a barrage of missiles back on October 1st. The files, which were prepared by the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, in other words, our satellites, in part detailed satellite imagery tied to the potential Israeli strike, as well as the various kinds of missiles on hand. They were posted by a Telegram account called Middle East Spectator. Retired Israeli Defense Forces Brigadier General Amir Avivi warned that the leak could have repercussions on Israel-U.S. relations, as the Jewish state places great trust in America when it shares its plans. Now, the top-secret files were only meant to be seen by those with proper clearance in the U.S. and other members of the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, as they call them, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United States. Retired four-star general, a dear friend, Jack Keane, a former U.S. Army Vice Chief of Staff, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, said it was outrageous that a government employee with high clearance was behind the leak. He said the leak had a minimal impact as it didn't reveal key aspects of the operation Israel went through on October 27, because Israel changed its position. It was still serious nonetheless. Now we've actually caught the guy, he told the Post. It serves as a deterrent for future government leaks. Now, the Middle East Spectator said it had received the documents through an anonymous source and that it had no connection to the original leaker, nor could it verify the authenticity of the documents. But the FBI revealed last month that it was probing the source of the leak, and they found the guy. The indictment doesn't provide exact details. Well, of course it doesn't, because they don't want to make them public twice. And so here you have it. There's the photo of the guy. Actually, it's not the guy. It's the CIA Director, William Burns. Well, he looks kind of squirrely anyway. And as a footnote, I guess Christopher Wray's days are numbered. That guy needs to go. He really needs to go. He is your bureaucratic mess. I worked with a lot of top FBI guys when I was at the Department of Justice for several years. They were the best. They were the absolute best. They were sharp. They were loyal. They were patriotic. They wanted to do the right thing, and they did do the right thing. You know, Comey kind of bastardized the place. Wray has done really nothing to fix it, in my humble opinion. Very little. Anyway, I mentioned, President talks about how he weaves. I think I have to weave, too. I always circle back. Senator John Thune at a press conference today. The new Republican majority leader in the Senate. Cut 4, Mr. Producer, go.
It's a new day in the United States Senate, and it's a new day in America. The American people have loudly rejected the failed policies of the Biden-Harris-Schumer agenda. And this Republican team is united. We are on one team. We are excited to reclaim the majority and to get to work with our colleagues in the House to enact President Trump's agenda. We have a mandate from the American people, a mandate not only to clean up the mess left by the Biden-Harris-Schumer agenda, but also to deliver on President Trump's priorities. We will make sure that the President and his team have the tools and the support that they need to enforce border security laws and to remove the violent criminals who are wreaking havoc in every one of our states. We will work to make America prosperous again by streamlining the bureaucratic machine and overturning costly Biden-Harris regulations. And we will work to restore American energy dominance. Not just our energy security, but energy dominance, which will lower costs and bolster our national security.
You know, Thune is more conservative than Cornyn. There's no question about it. He spent an awful lot of time, though, at the foot of Mitch McConnell, but he's more conservative than Cornyn. Cornyn was the worst. And I want to salute Senator Scott, who has the guts, has the courage to try and take the system on, and he did. And we congratulate him for the effort. A lot of people do. They don't take those steps. They're all talk. But he's not all talk. He's an excellent senator, too. More on John Thune. He's taking a question. Cut 5, Mr. Producer, go.
Leader Thune, you said that recess appointments are on the table. That's a key demand from President-elect Donald Trump. Will you move forward with that?
Well, what we're going to do is make sure that we are processing his nominees in a way that gets them into those positions so they can implement his agenda. How that happens remains to be seen. You know, obviously, we want to make sure our committees have confirmation hearings like they typically do, and that these nominees reported out to the floor. But I've said this, and I mean it, that we expect a level of cooperation from the Democrats to work with us to get these folks installed. And obviously, we're going to look at explore all options to make sure that they get moved and that they get moved quickly.
Excellent. And that's what the president asked for. Look, he's got to staff these departments. If you don't have a loyal cabinet secretary administrator running these departments, they run wild. And when they run wild, they advance the cause of the Democrat Party and they're Marxist jihadists. That's what they do. And so they got to get through. Now, it is interesting to me that the one nominee who the Democrats are slobbering all over, have you noticed this, Mr. Producer? Marco Rubio. Fetterman comes out. The most left-wing Democrats are coming out. Yeah, we like Rubio. We're going to support Rubio. So he has spent a lot of time working both sides of the aisle. That's pretty clear. And that's to his credit, of course. But the Democrats, almost to a man and a woman and a transitioning individual, they love him. They love him. We haven't heard much from him here on the Marc Levin show, but they love him. So there is that. And he'll be running the State Department. That's going to require a very strong hand. Now, Chris Van Hollen has thrown in with the jihadists. He's an Israel hater. In my view, he's an anti-Semite. My opinion. His wife is a radical kook. I've been told by other senators up there, a radical kook, anti-Israeli. And so he's demonstrating that. And the people from Maryland, you ought to wake up to the fact that this guy who's got the skin tone of of mashed potatoes. I just say that to point it out because, we want to get into all the racial stuff because that's the nature of the beast today, isn't it? Oh, yes. Well, it is. Anyway, so Chris Van Hollen, who's actually translucent. Let me put it that way. Is that better, Mr. Producer? I say that because people say, who's Chris Holland? He's the guy who's walking down the hall where you can actually see through him. Chris Van Hollen on MSLSD today about Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee, a great American patriot, a great supporter of the Holy Land, and that's what bothers Chris Van Hollen and his wife. Cut 8, go.
I want to ask you about Mike Huckabee's appointment.
Now that's Andrea Mitchell, who's a has-been and has always wanted to be a wannabe. And we can only hope that MSLSD, with Comcast actually calling the shots, will finally broom her. But I don't know. Send her the way of Chris Wallace and the other old dinosaurs. But she looks like she's going to hang on to the bitter end. More and more, she looks like Nancy Pelosi. Go ahead.
To be ambassador to Israel, not appointment, I should say, him being chosen, he has to be confirmed, and you would be one of those voting on this. He has said that Palestinians have no right to the land.
She's a lower voice than I do, doesn't she, Mr. Producer? Ooh. Go ahead.
They just happen to live there. He's also talking about the possibility of annexing the West Bank, which would...
Look how she's attacking this man. Just look. Look how she's attacking him. Now, let's be clear. Let's use plain English. There is no West Bank. The Jordanians took Judea and Samaria from the Jews, 1948. West Bank means the West Bank of Jordan. West Bank, since 1940, there's no West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria. Why does Andrea Mitchell refuse to call Judea and Samaria by their actual historic and modern names? They're Judea and Samaria. And as I've said over and over and over again, there are no settlers in Judea and Samaria. The Jews are the indigenous peoples, any more than you would call Native Americans on various reservations in this country settlers on occupied territory. It is this constant anti-Semitic, anti-Jew, anti-Israel propaganda coming out of her big mouth, as well as the big mouths of the rest of the media. There is no West Bank of Jordan. There was Transjordan. That's it. It's a concoction. It's a creation. There was no monarchy. Look it up. Check your Bible. That's a concoction. That's a creation. That's what it is. There is no Jordan. Not a modern-day Jordan. It was created. Judea and Samaria weren't created by man. They were created by God. Go ahead.
All of these UN resolutions, Camp David, the two-state solution. What is your reaction?
Now, she just throws that against the wall because she's good at throwing you-know-what against the wall. The Camp David, the two states. What are you mumbling about? There's no two-state solution. Camp David didn't accomplish anything. So what the hell are you talking about? And she's throwing this at Van Hollen because Van Hollen is a bigot. She knows what she's doing. It's she invites him on. She feeds him his red meat, and he chews on it like a Doberman of the anti-Semitic left. Go ahead.
Evangelical Christian.
Wait a minute. Huckabee's an evangelical Christian. Oh, now we got to really oppose it. Let's get an evangelical Christian who supports the Israelis in the Holy Land. He's got to go. He's got to go. No, Mitchell, you need to go. You've been around like a bad inner thigh rash forever. You're not a journalist. You're a putz. Go ahead.
Strong religious views about this based in the Bible.
Wait a minute. He has religious views based on the Bible. Don't tell me these people aren't bigots. They are bigots. They hate Jews, especially Orthodox Jews, and they hate evangelical Christians or practicing faithful Catholics. They hate you. And there she is on MSNBC, given a format. Been given a format for at least 412 years. Look at her. Listen to her. What do you think about that, Chris Van Hollen? No, wait. So she feeds this guy softball after softball. Let's listen in, shall we? Go ahead.
And I definitely have the concerns that you just laid out here. It will be an interesting...
Oh, she's a journalist. She has concerns? Oh, I thought she was asking an objective question. Go ahead.
Senate Foreign Relations Committee when we get to that point, because anybody who knows the Middle East recognizes that the best long-term solution to guarantee both Israel's security and the dignity and...
Shut up, you idiot. The two-state solution. Two-state solution. This moron, still with the two-state solution, the two-state solution. Israel, just give up your indigenous homeland. You know, Judea and Samaria. Well, literally, the tribes of Israel came together and the Jewish faith was born. Yeah, just give it up. To whom? Oh, the Palestinians. The peaceful Palestinians. And that'll bring us peace, says Van Hollen. That jerk, as he sits his fat ass in his mansion in Bethesda, Maryland. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
Folks, have you ever thought about what charities and causes you give your hard-earned money to? Pure Talk, my cell phone company, supports veterans. As a veteran-led company, that's their passion project. And that's why Pure Talk has slashed $10 million in veteran debt. That's why they donate tens of thousands of dollars every month to help prevent veteran suicide. That's why they donate $50,000 to Micro Works, providing scholarships to veterans learning the trades after active duty. Now, isn't that a company you can get behind? Time to jump ship from these other three guys. There's a better option. Pure Talk gives you the same great coverage, America's most dependable 5G network, for half the cost. And you'll be supporting a company that is helping our vets. It's a win-win. Dial pound 250. Say keyword Marc Levin. You'll be connected to Pure Talk's U.S. call center. That's right. They invest in American jobs to better serve you. And remember, they're half the price of the big three. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN. Switch to a company that invests in American jobs to better serve you. Again, go to puretalk.com/Levin. You'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company. All right, Mr. Producer. Where am I? Which one? Okay, here we go. Everybody ready? See you in a moment. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Marc Levin.
Hello, America. It be me, Marc Levin. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You know, I almost never mentioned this, so I'm going to. Don't forget our podcast platform. Every host has one, local, regional, national, but ours is big. If you want to follow us on the podcast, or if you listen to us on radio and then you want to say, wait, what did he say? You can go back to the podcast. If we're ever out of a market, if there's ever preemption, this is where you go. You go to marklevinshow.com. That's the mothership. MARKLEVIN show.com. You click on the audio rewind and you select your favorite platform. It's that simple. Or you can search Marc Levin Show on your podcast platform, your favorite podcast platform. You can also find my full podcast interviews and specials on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel just for us, just for you. YouTube.com at Marc Levin Show. YouTube.com at Marc Levin Show, or search Marc Levin Show, Marc Levin, Marc Levin Show in YouTube. It's that simple. We're on multiple platforms. We will always be on multiple platforms under every and any circumstance. Because we're here for you. We're not here for any particular corporation or owner or program director. We're here for all of them, but we're also here for all of you. Because without you, this show doesn't exist and they don't exist. So we're always going to use what technology gives us. And what technology gives us are additional platforms, more and more platforms. It'd be like having a newspaper and telling people, sorry, you can't go on the internet. Now, how stupid would that be? Sorry, you can't go on the internet? No, you can go on the internet. You're free people. You can do whatever you want. Okay, here we go. We have Jack Smith. Remember him, the rogue, unconstitutional prosecutor? Our friends at the New York Post. We love the New York Post. Nicholas McIntyre. Special counsel Jack Smith plans to retire before Trump takes office. That's right. He's going to put out his report, he says. He's going to put out a report even though there's been no trials. He's going to put out a report anyway. Again, abuse of power. The man is unethical to the core. Smith is reportedly scrambling to finalize what's left of his work so he can retire before President Trump takes office in January, denying the Republicans a chance to fire him. What a loathsome lowlife this guy is. Smith is trying to wind down the two federal cases he's been pursuing against the 45th president so he can get ahead of Trump's promise to axe him within 2 seconds, quote unquote. That's too long to me. Being sworn back in the White House, the New York Times reported. He's aiming to not leave behind any significant work for others to complete in the wake of Trump's inauguration and has already started telling members of his team they can start planning their departures over the next few weeks. Now, let me tell you something, Jack Smith. I'm going to be on your ass no matter where you go. You can go back to The Hague or whatever you want. Now we're going to hunt you down. And by that I mean from a broadcast perspective, a microphone and television perspective. I want to know if you violated the Presidential Records Act or anybody on your team did. I want to know if you violated the Espionage Act or anybody on your team did. And if they did, and you did, you need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and your sorry ass thrown into prison. What you've done to this country, how you've divided this country, how you've abused the legal system, how you wasted court resources in the Supreme Court and elsewhere, what you have done, you need to be punished for. He's aiming to not leave behind any significant work. He better leave behind all of his papers. Jim Jordan has already sent a letter. You better preserve them, but he's supposed to preserve them anyway. Speaker of the House has done the same thing under the Presidential Records Act and, yes, the Espionage Act. His office is still drawing up plans on how to wrap up his probes against Trump, including his attempts to overturn... Okay, what is with this writer? A Florida-based federal judge had dismissed documents case in July. Of course, they appealed that because they're stupid. All federal prosecutions have been ended, as I've explained. I'm going to do it again this weekend on Fox, actually. I'm going to explain how the state case goes away. By the way, we have some great guests on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Saturday and Sunday. And that's what I meant to say when I got into that discussion about the ratings and so forth. Going to, about the guests that we're going to have on. And they are great guests. I think you're going to love it, as a matter of fact. Let's see here if I can find. I just want to give you the times of which guest is showing up when. There we go. We are going to have on the program Eric Trump. He'll be our first guest Sunday. And Arthur Ferguson, one of the most brilliant lawyers I've ever known, and I've known him a long time, almost half a century. And we're going to discuss with you what happens if the New York Court of Appeals either takes too long or doesn't rule the proper way. And we will continue to educate the professors, the former federal prosecutors, everybody else on how this works, because for some reason they just will not digest it or can't. I don't know. But you can and you will, and we've talked about it before, but I wanted to underscore it. We're going to have Charlie Kirk on. We've been trying to get Charlie for a long time, and now we can get him on, among others. We're going to have Douglas Murray on, who's fantastic. So we have 4 great guests this week, and don't forget, set your recorders, your TiVo, your DVR, whatever you use. 8 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, Life, Liberty, and Levin. Especially when there's football on Sunday Night Football. You want to record the program so you can go back and look at it at your leisure. Or as they say in Britain, at your leisure. Wasn't immediately clear, writes the piece, how quickly Smith will wrap up what's left of his work. He wants to write a report, as I mentioned, which is really a low-life thing to do. That's what he wants to do. So he wants to get in his shots. Democrats will want to use it for impeachment down the road. We will be there to confront them and fight them. That's what we'll do, because that's what we always do. Did you see this, Mr. Producer? RV sales to be banned across 6 states as California climate rules take effect. Did you see this? I mean, this is like stealing private property. I don't know why people put up with this stuff. And this isn't even an elected body. It's a body created by the elected body. Diesel motorhome sales are set to be halted in several states at the start of next year due to a new climate rule from California being enacted, according to the RV travel site. Motorhome sales are being prevented, ready? In California, Washington, Oregon, New York, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. if the vehicles do not meet certain emission requirements based on regulations from the California Air Resources Board. This is a Stalinist Politburo where they impose these impossible standards. The CARB amended its Advanced Clean Truck Regulations on October 24, which require all vehicles over 8,500 pounds to produce zero emissions. You know what the likelihood of that is? Zero. Zero emissions. In other words, electric vehicles, that's the only thing they'll accept. This is Stalinism. So all these people with RV homes, all these people want to purchase new RV homes, the RV home industry, all the workers in the industry, it's just nuts. Motorhome owners in 6 states will not be allowed to register a recreational vehicle that is not in compliance with the climate regulation. It's not a regulation. It is a degrowth fiat. California has enacted various green energy policies in recent years, including filing a major lawsuit against Chevron, another oil company, seeking climate change damages, which they just lost, by the way. So they're just trying to brutalize, harass, undermine the production of energy. The Biden-Harris administration rolled out various electric vehicle policies as part of Biden's climate agenda, including introducing a strict tailpipe line emissions rule in March that will require about 67% of all light-duty vehicles sold after 2032 to be electric vehicles or hybrids. The president has been leading a push to build 500,000 public EV chargers. Yeah, we know, they have 8. Can you imagine charging up your RV or your truck? Ooh, that won't take too long, and you won't have to do that too often, will you, America? Various American automobiles have scaled back EV-related plans amid a lack of consumer demand. Toyota's North American Chief Operating Officer Jack Hollis recently criticized policies promoting EV adoption, citing impossible standards. They are impossible for a reason. They want to destroy the combustion engine. They want to mandate EVs, whether you like them or not. And then you're going to have blackouts. There won't be enough electricity. You won't be able to drive far enough. There won't be enough EV chargers. The goal is to stop you from traveling. That's what it is. To stop you from traveling. Get on public transportation. I don't care where you want to go, what kind of vacation you want to go on. That's what you're going to have to do. These people are nuts. They're friggin' nuts. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
Hey, Carl Bernstein, you fat slop. Why don't you take that cork out of your ass and float away, you big jerk? Starting already attacking Trump. Oh, he's a journalist, Andrea Mitchell. Why don't you take those false teeth out of your head and just move along with the old man, you know. He's got to be in his hundreds somewhere. I'm just saying, Adam Kinzinger, you failed, you schmuck. You failed. What are you attacking Pete Hegseth for? That's what I mean. These people are horrendous. Is there anybody good on these networks? This Governor Pritzker, he won't accept mass deportation. So look at this guy. Looks like Jabba the Hutt plus 500 pounds, this guy. He's as tall as he is wide. He's an unsightly figure, and he inherits billions because his family was in the hotel business. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? He bought himself a governorship. It was really tough in a Democrat state like that. We won't accept mass deportations. You'll accept what you're told to accept, you jerk. How many times were we told by the Department of Injustice, by Meritless Garland, how many times were we told by federal courts that immigration is a plenary power of the federal government? Now all of a sudden, my state won't, you can shove it there, pal, governor. The Biden regime, the Department of Injustice created a precedent, a legal precedent, as have others. It's a federal matter, they keep telling us. States can't put up barbed wire. What the hell? States can't enforce the law. States can't use the invasion provision of the Constitution. No, it's a federal matter. Okay, there's a new sheriff in town, and by that I mean Washington. And by that I mean President Trump. And he's assigned Tom Homan, a patriot, who knows the laws inside and out, upside and down. North, south, east, west. How else can I put it? You get it. Pritzker. You'll have to come through me. Oh, that'll be tough, fat boy. Really, really tough. Do you see these tough governors, by the way, Mr. Producer? They're bizarre-looking people with bizarre features. No, I don't say this to be mean. Yeah, actually, I do. They're bizarre people with bizarre features. Some of them are pigs and slobs. Other of them are about 2 feet tall, 12 pounds. You're going to have to come through me. Oh, that's going to be tough. Just use the federal law that the Biden regime used against Texas, but this time use it against them. You see, the sword cuts both ways. The sword cuts both ways. Oh, yes, it does. Oh, there's my lovely wife. What do you got there? Hello, lovely wife.
Hello. We've got some goodies here.
We have some goodies, yeah. We like goodies. She brings me snacks. You know, the thinking is that if you eat after 9 p.m. Eastern Time, it's not healthy, Mr. Producer. Have you heard that, too? Is that why you always have your face filled with a cheesesteak at about 7 p.m.? Well, congratulations. I don't blame you. By the way, people have asked me, so I shall answer. The leg is getting much better. It just takes a long time. The tear of the tendon was 100%. The knee and the quad were essentially unattached. A great surgeon, Dr. Annunziata, he's the surgeon for the Commanders. We used to call them the Redskins. Now that apparently is bigoted. I've always said, drop the name Washington. That's the problem I have. But what do I know? He's their surgeon. He's their ortho guy. He did a fantastic job. And he said, look, we were able to do this and fix it, but it's going to be the PT that's tough. And it is very tough. But I want to give a shout out to my man, Larry. Before him, Marwin, whose family comes from the Philippines. This guy was very, very good for the first month for in-home PT. Then you got to step up the game. You got to do this PT with these various machines. You know what? That damn metal device is the worst one, where they rub it across your leg, your thigh, because you have 4 layers of skin or whatever the hell it is. I don't really understand. It doesn't matter. Oh, does it hurt? Oh, it really hurts. Then they have like these suction cups that feel like perpetual bee stings. Again, they're trying. The quad, it's like a rubber band, and it's really hard. And they're trying to ease it up. They're trying to deal with, as you heal, they're trying to make sure that your muscles are functioning, that everything's functioning, that the scar tissue isn't building up in such a way that you'll walk with a limp or you won't be able to bend your knee. So it's a real balance. It's really quite advanced. And he tells you this muscle and this nerve. Larry, I don't know what you're talking. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Then there's this one device. It's almost like a torture chamber. But you know what? You feel good after it, and it really does help. And it looks like this little thing that polishes your shoes, that goes round and round, Mr. Producer, with a sort of a thing on the end there. And they put it on my knee and my thigh. And oh, my God. Now, I try not to yell. He told me a lot of these athletes really do yelp pretty good. So I kind of bite my teeth down. But he's got me in 100% better condition. He does. And so I say to the doctor, how long is this going to go on for? Oh, don't worry. No, what do you mean? 8 months. I'm doing this for 8 months, Mr. Producer. 8 damn months. That's a long damn time. 8 months. So this Thanksgiving, we always gather in New Jersey at Sylvia's house, my mother-in-law's house. It's magnificent. It's beautiful, and we all gather there. And I'm going to go by train. I'm not going to tell you which day because I don't want people meeting me, especially foes, not friends. I don't mind. And so I'm going to be taking the train up there. It can be a lot easier than a 5-hour car drive. All right, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. You're probably saying, I'm busy, I'm eating, give me a hamburger. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin, radio's principal patriot. Call in now at 877-381-3811.
We have our brand new great WTNP Philadelphia station. We're so proud to be with them and so proud to be on there. We want to thank everybody there. Thank all of our friends at Salem. WNTP, WNTP. Hello, WNTP, just a great station. This is breaking. Special counsel Jack Smith stands down in Trump classified documents case, asks court to halt appeal. You know, they filed the appeal, now they're telling the court, by the way, forget about that. So everything's collapsing. This guy Mershon is the last of the knuckleheads, of the headbangers. He's holding on. He's a Neanderthal. We'll address that again over the weekend on Fox. We've addressed it here as well, but I want you to be aware of that. It's all collapsing. You know, these people need to be held to account. That whole department needs to be held to account. Everybody needs to know what they did. What they did was so egregious in an open society, so egregious. Well, Mr. Producer, yes. Well, Adam Kinzinger. Now, you would think by now these old scabs would go away, but they have nowhere to go. What is Adam Kinzinger going to do? How does he make any money, I wonder? Selling cigarettes in a corner in a raincoat, Mr. Producer? I don't know. There he is, attacking Pete Hegseth, a fellow veteran, on the Constipated News Network. I'm telling you, these people are no damn good. Go ahead, 11, please.
Obviously, it's weird, and there's only one reason he's doing it, because he's on Fox News, and, you know, that's what Donald Trump...
not the only reason he's doing it, weird eyes. That's not the only reason he's doing it. He's got a long, heroic career in the military. He's written about it at length. He's a breath of fresh air. He's a young man. He will attract more recruits. What do you want? One of these generals like Milley, a big fat guy who blew it when he came to Afghanistan? Yeah, that's what we want. No, it's not. Go ahead.
I know Pete. Like, I haven't talked to him actually much recently, but I know him, and particularly prior to his life in Fox News. And he actually is very smart when it comes to things like defense policy. He used to, I remember his last deployment to Afghanistan, he actually was putting out this kind of newsletter he would do every week or so, filling folks in. But the question is, what kind of Pete Hegseth is going to show up? That one? Or is it going to be the Pete Hegseth that's on Fox News that just tries to be loyal to Donald Trump? And that's why he was picked, because of his loyalty.
Yes, we need somebody who's disloyal to the commander-in-chief. Don't you understand? Disloyal to Donald Trump. You only have to be loyal to Biden and Clinton and Obama. But this is so weird, these arguments. He's being picked because he's loyal. Well, he's loyal in 1,000 other attributes, but yes, loyal is one of them. No, you don't understand. I want to pick somebody who's disloyal. Who does anything like that? This guy's an idiot. Then there's Van Jones on the Constipated News Network today, trashing Pete Hegseth. I don't know that Van Jones ever served in the military. I don't even know if he's ever watched a war movie. Cut 12, go.
And so the idea that our military, there's something wrong with it, our generals are terrible, this is a fiction. And so when you start trying to solve non-existent problems...
Says who, Van Jones? It's a fiction, says Van Jones. Who doesn't know the military from anybody? You get the point. There's nothing about them. It's a fiction. No, it's not a fiction. Our top-level brass has been weak. Not everyone, but too many. Particularly those who advise the President of the United States. But Van Jones, he pronounces it a fiction, and everyone knows that Van Jones, who I believe is a Maoist, something of that kind. We always listen to him. Next, we'll have James Carville. Go ahead.
Fighting force in the world, you actually create problems. And I don't think there's any evidence or any data that shows that having women involved in our military has made our military worse. Where is the evidence of this? This is all fiction, it's all ideology, and it's all...
He didn't say having women in the military make our military worse. You're talking about transitioning, paying for those operations, DEI wokeism, lowering standards, a lack of merit. Of course, that makes not just the military, but every institution weaker, you schmuck. That's why CNN sucks. Go ahead.
And, you know, and I don't think anybody can defend this choice. This is not somebody who, I mean, he's a Fox News host who used to be in the military. If that's the
nobody can defend this choice, America, except me and everybody else who knows exactly who Pete Hegseth is and what he's done. It's so, isn't it the dumbest damn thing? But Kamala Harris is qualified to be the commander-in-chief and run the military, you see? She's qualified. Pete Hegseth's not qualified to be the SecDef, but Kamala Harris is qualified. And not only that, Tampon Tim is qualified to replace her if necessary. So they have a freak show in every respect. They're able to do everything, but here's Pete Hegseth, who's got significant military experience, has done a tremendous amount of thinking about the military. He's done a lot of writing about it. And I would ask Van Jones this. Did you read his book? Of course he didn't. And so this is Van Jones peddling his usual stupidity. After Adam Kingser, look, I've known Pete, they were stabbing his friend in the back. These people are really the worst, don't you think? Pete Hegseth, actually, when you start to think about it, outstanding selection. Outstanding selection to be the head of the Defense Department. Now, Carl Bernstein, who I adequately described before, there he is, and he's on CNN. Now, we hear that they're going to slash people over at CNN. They should. Not because I like to see that, but because they're not getting ratings, because they don't put out facts. They don't put out information. They bring in fat slobs like Carl Bernstein, who comes in there with food stains on his shirt, with spittle coming out of both sides of his mouth. He's a grotesque person. Go ahead.
Let's look at the three beneficiaries of this election as reflected in these appointments in part, and that is Putin, Netanyahu, and the third would really be...
Who's the third? Who's the third, big boy? Who's the third? He's trying to say Xi. This guy Philip, or gal Philip, she provides him with the name. Putin, Netanyahu, and Xi. Now, first of all, why would you put Netanyahu in with Putin and Xi? Why? Because this CNN is a Jew-hater network. Even though it has some Jews, it's like the FDR administration. They had Jews in the administration, but the State Department was all-out anti-Semitic. Like Bernie Sanders and his ilk. Yes, I said that, and I mean it. You have self-hating people. You have self-hating blacks, self-hating Hispanics, self-hating this, that. We have self-hating Jews. We also have Islamists that populate this government and populate the media. So many, we can't even keep count of them. And there's Bernstein, Carl Bernstein. And so these appointments you see are intended to help Putin, Netanyahu, and Xi. And the media say, can't we all come together and come get along here? Why do we always have to yell at each other? They're the worst. They're the worst. This is what they do, whether it's Andrea Mitchell or whether it is Carl Bernstein, whether it is really anyone on MSNBC or CNN. Then they bring in these grifters like Adam Kinzinger. Then you got Van Jones there. And it isn't amazing? They know everything. Van Jones knows everything about the military. The guy has done nothing for the military, but he knows. He knows that Hegseth isn't ready because he's on Fox. Oh, my God. Yes, CNN needs to do some house cleaning. I'll be right back.
Marc Levin.
Want to hear this one? Difference between conservatives and Republicans, Democrats and Republicans. I should say conservatives and liberals. From the Jerusalem Post. A bill to revoke tax-exempt status of terror-supporting non-governmental organizations, NGOs, fails to pass in the U.S. House. Has anybody told you about this? A bill that would have granted the U.S. Treasury the power to revoke the tax-exempt status of nonprofit terrorist-supporting groups failed to pass in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Did you know they had this vote yesterday? The bipartisan Stop Terror Financing and Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act didn't meet the required two-thirds majority to pass. 256 voted yes, 145 voted no. The bill was 9 votes short of passing. Of the yeses, 52 were Democrats, 204 were Republicans. So the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of Democrats voted against penalizing and taking the tax-exempt status away from terrorist financing and supporting groups. You hear what I said? This is nuts. My voice even changed. It is nuts, don't you think, Mr. Producer? The bill's failure to pass was met with jubilation from guess what group in particular? CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. Why? Because they're Hamas front group. They would lose their tax-exempt status. It was sponsored by Claudia Tenney, our good friend from New York, co-sponsored by 2 Republican representatives, David Kustoff and Representative Nicole Miliatakis, a wonderful lady, Long Island, I believe, or Staten Island, and 2 Democratic representatives, Bradley Schneider and Dina Titus. So we salute Schneider and Titus on this one. I'm showing everything else. They're crazy as hell. But nonetheless, can you believe that the overwhelming majority of Democrats voted against taking nonprofit status away from groups with terrorist ties? Can you believe that? And of course, Claire, whoever, applauds it. I think that's stunning. It is stunning, and it's disgusting. And you ought to find out how your member voted, in my humble opinion. Find out how your member voted, because that's a big vote. That's a big tell, I would say. Dick Van Dyke. Honestly, and I don't mean to be rude, I didn't know he was still with us, Mr. Producer, but apparently he is. Apparently people think he's relevant. Dick Van Dyke, who I used to love as a kid to watch his show, the Mary Tyler Moore Show and everything that he was involved in. Dick Van Dyke, with the Daily Mail yesterday. He suggested he'd rather die than see another 4 years of Trump. Well, Trump's going to be elected, and he will eventually die, Dick Van Dyke, so his wish will come true at some point. But how sick is that? How sick is that? Cut 15, Mr. Producer, go.
Does the future look bright for America?
The what?
Does the future look bright for America?
I hope you're right.
Do you think Donald Trump is capable of making America great again?
Fortunately, I won't be around to experience the 4 years.
He says, fortunately, I won't be around to experience the 4 years. I don't even know what to say anymore to these people. I really don't. They've got head issues, and not just him, obviously. There's a lot of them, but they're in the media, they're in entertainment, they're in sports. I mean, do they actually believe what they're saying? I guess they do. But isn't it crazy? And Dick Van Dyke, doesn't that break your heart? It's like Andy Mayberry, Andy Griffin. When you found out what a radical left-winger he was, you go, wait a minute, the guy with the fishing pole and all that. Yeah, him. Him, too? Him. Not two. He's way out there. Crazy. It's too bad. It's crazy. But the tax-exempt status against terrorist-supporting NGOs, that's crazier than anything, I think. And yet, that's the position of the Democrat Party. Breitbart report, anxious Democrats plot to sabotage Donald Trump's agenda, and this is why we need to stand shoulder to shoulder, not get caught up in stupid little battles. As you know damn well they want him to fail. You remember what they called him. You remember. By the way, I've talked about this before, but it's really kind of highlighted. So Donald Trump meets with Biden. They talk for 2 hours, right? So Donald Trump is a fascist, a dictator. He's Hitler. He's going to use the military to round up people who disagree with him and kill them. He's going to use the military to round up reporters. And there they are. They had a nice meeting. They're going to have a nice transition. Do you understand how these people have been lying and lying and lying and lying over and over and over again, as I told you they were and they would? And by the way, you women who are extremists on the issue of abortion, you support infanticide, that is so-called abortion, while the baby's in the birth canal. You wait and see. You've been lied to then, too. Are you going to get pissed off at the people who lied to you? No. No, he's going to take women's rights away. Like what? I'm not going to take anything away. Man, this show went too fast, but there's always tomorrow. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers. We salute the men and women in Ukraine. We salute our brothers and sisters in Israel. And you, the American people, red-blooded, patriotic Levinites, I cannot thank you enough for saving our country. So we'll have another meeting right here tomorrow. God bless.